All right, today is the day. We're gonna put this back together. We got the heads from the machine shop. They're looking beautiful. Let me show you. This is what we got. They threw it through their parts washer. It looks awesome. They put in new valve seals for us, and then they did a valve job. So they reground the valves, cleaned them up really good, resurfaced our head. So this is ready for installation. Let me show you real quick what I did. On this side, I just put the valve train back in, the rocker arms. The machine shop had me take them off. I didn't have my camera with me there. So I just want to demonstrate how to pull these off and how to put them back on. Let's hop over to the block and we'll prep that first. So on the block side, there's not a whole lot to do. We're just going to take a little brake clean on a rag, and we're going to clean off our mating surface really good. You don't have to scrape anything. Now, if you do scrape, use a plastic scraper. But all we're doing is just getting any gunk left behind. And also make sure you use a rag that's lint-free or something that doesn't fall apart, because we don't want to get all that in our coolant ports and oil and all that. Okay, so that's it here. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Everything we do on this side, you just hop over and do the same thing. Next we want to do is blow out our bolt holes. We don't want any coolant or oil that may have gotten into our bolt holes. We want to blow those out. We'll just take our air nozzle, we'll put it in that hole as far as it'll go, then we'll just get a rag, cover it just to collect any spray. There we go, and we'll just do that to all of them. Okay, that easy, not much really came out. We just don't want any liquid because that can give us a false torque. And that's it. That's pretty much all you need to do to the block. We just wipe it one more time, and it's ready, and just do everything to the other side that we did to this side. Let's go back to the heads. On our head, we have two different sets of rockers. They're both held in with 12mm bolts. There should be 4 on one rail, 4 on the other rail. You'll notice on the set closest to the spark plug tube, they are spring loaded. So what we want to do, let me throw a little light on it, is relieve spring tension. So right here is the spring, here's the little retainer. And then on this side, it's the same right here, the spring and then the retainer. So we want to release this retainer. And what I've done to make a little tool is just a flat bladed screwdriver, and I just cut a little notch in it. Hopefully you can see that. Just right there, a little V notch. Doesn't have to be too wide, just wide enough to get that retainer in that notch. Now you can do it without this notch. This notch just helps it kind of stay in and doesn't slip off the screwdriver. So that's all this notch is for. And that's all you need. So let me set up the camera and I'll show you how to pop those off. Hopefully you can see good enough, but we just want to take this notch, put it right here, push in like that, and then over, there we go. And then it releases that tension. And the spring can just rest right here, no big deal. Let me do the other one. Let me see if I can get a better angle. All right, so we just got our notch, put it right there, push in, and then over, a little more. There we go, and that's it. Now we can remove the bolts and pull off our rockers. 12mm. We can set this aside. We just put it on a clean surface. And then same here, 12mm. All right, we'll pull this off. One thing to note with these is they can slide and they can slide off. So just be careful with them so they don't slide off and drop on the ground. And then we just want all this on a really good clean surface so we don't get any grit anywhere where it shouldn't be, which is everywhere. And then we also want to make sure that these go back on the same head. So however you want to make sure that it's the same head. This is stamped with the number 1. This other one is stamped with the number 2. So maybe on the rocker you can clean it off and just put like a number 1 or a 1 tick mark. And then on the other one put 2 tick marks. However you want, as long as they go on the same head. Now putting it back together, just lay it right here. It fits in its little spot. The shorter bolts go on this one. And then we'll hand thread it, make sure we're starting some good threads. And we can tighten these down. And grab the other one. One thing to note on this, these can move around and there's this little tab here. We don't want to lose that tab, it can fall out. Also that pin can protrude too far and it'll get stuck right here on this frame. So we just want to make sure that it goes in and can clear that frame. Okay, push it in, clear the frame, just like that. And same thing on the other, just if it happens. It might not happen, but if it does, we just want to make sure that it's in and can clear the frame before putting it down. Otherwise, we'll be fighting that. So just set it down. Should fall kind of right into place. Now there's 2 different bolt heads. 3 will have a fatter head and they'll be darker in color, and then 1 will be lighter with a smaller diameter. So that smaller diameter one goes in the middle and then the rest go out. Just get some good threads started and then tighten them down. All right, last step is to reset the spring. So just take our tool, put it right on the edge like that, push it back. There we go, and it locks in. Putting it on is a little easier than taking it off because it wants to fall in that spot. Just push it back, and there we go. That's it. And of course, we'd have these all torqued down. So I'm gonna pull this back off, then we're ready to install the head gasket and the head. Let's do it. I'm also gonna just wipe our cylinders out real quick. Something I forgot, just in case anything fell inside. All right, that's good. Now our head gaskets, this is Fel-Pro. As long as the wording is facing towards you and there's an up, so that's in the up direction. This would be upside down, this would be right. And it doesn't matter which side, they are both the same. You have a little oil port here, just make sure that oil port goes right here. We'll just put these on the dowels, just like that and that, okay? All right, remember our head bolts need to go in the head first before putting our head on. The manual does have us lube up. We wanna lube up our threads and lube up our washer top and bottom so it's good and slippery. So we'll lube them up, then slide them in our head, and then we'll put our head on. I'm just gonna take a little lube, we'll put it on our threads, rub it around. We wanna get all the threads coated, and then we'll do our washer, front and back. Get that all, and then we'll just set it down. I already did all the others, so we are set. Let's put this head on. So this will go down under here. Just want to be very careful not to scratch anything on either the head or the block. All right. Nice and gently. Okay. My head gasket fell off. Put that back on. Okay. If I remember correctly, I think these last two can actually go in later. So let me pull those out. Maybe that'll help. The less bolts that are in here, the better, because they want to slide and move on you. There we go. Got it. Whew. Just got to maneuver it just right. Get some threads started. So I think these can go in. There we go. So I just have to manipulate it just a little because that bottom one won't go in. So I have to drop this corner down just a little. There, got it. I think on the other side I'm going to put all three bottoms in. That was kind of a pain to get that one in, but we got it, so we are all set. Got all the bolts in. There we go. There, perfect. There we go, we'll just snug them a little. Because this is our final product and we don't want anything falling in these holes, we're just gonna put a rag in each one so no dirt or grit gets in there. All right, ready to torque these down? Let me bring you over to the computer. I'll show you the pattern and the torque sequence. I'm not sure if you can read this, but I'll read it to you. So apply sufficient amount of oil to the washer and thread bolts. We did that. Then we want to tighten the bolts in this pattern. I'll zoom in on this pattern a little better, but 29 foot-pounds and then back through to 70 foot-pounds. So 29, 70. Then we want to loosen all bolts by 180 degrees and then tighten the bolts 7.4 foot-pounds, go back through 22 foot-pounds, go back through 44 foot-pounds, go back through 90 degrees, then go back through 45 degrees, and then last 45 degrees. So quite a bit of steps. Let me show you the pattern. Let me zoom in on this. Starting with A in the middle, B down below it, C in the corner, D, E, F. So A, B, C, D, E, F, just like that. So now let's apply that to the car. All right, first we have 29. And there's one, and then straight down from that. All right, diagonal up. And diagonal across. This is that far back bottom one. All right, then straight across is the front bottom one. The last one is this top back one. Next is 70, so starting in that top middle one. All right, 70 sure feels like a lot. Okay, so the manual says during this step, getting the 70, if you hear it kind of chatter or chink chink as you're getting to the 70, then we didn't apply enough oil to our threads. In that case, we want to back everything out. We can reuse the head gasket, that's okay, but we want to apply more oil to the threads. So far, we're doing really good. We got this corner bottom one. Okay, all right, last one, top corner. All right, now we want to loosen them back up in reverse order, so starting in this corner and just doing the reverse. I don't know if I misspoke last, but it's 180 and then an additional 180. So all we're doing is just releasing all our torque so we start back at 0. Okay, that's close to 180, and then go back through and finish it off. In fact, I could probably use a ratchet. Okay, all right, now we start at 7.4 or 7.5 is close enough. Okay, 7.5 is pretty light. The last one. And we have 22.1 or 22 is close enough. Okay, one below it. All right, nice. Now we have 44 foot-pounds or 44.3. Okay, straight down. Last one. All right, now we get our angles. All right, let me show you how we're gonna get our degrees. Imagine this is a head bolt in there. We're gonna mark straight up and down, all the way across. Then we're gonna tighten it 90, so then all our marks will now be horizontal. Then we'll tighten it 45, and we can get it close in the 45, and then one last pass for another 45. We'll put all our marks vertical again. We're gonna start vertical, 90, 45, 45, and end vertical. For those bottom ones, just so I can get a better eye on it, I'm gonna do it from underneath. But I can see these 3 top bolts really easy from up here. If I need, I'll use a mirror and a flashlight, but I think I can see everything from underneath for the bottom bolts and then the top bolts from up here. Just gonna wipe the head of the bolt off, straight up and down. Now I'm underneath, wiping the head bolts off, and then straight up and down. All right, for this I'm gonna use a breaker bar and get my flashlight. So 90 degrees. Okay, now last one is this top back one. All right, let me zoom you in and show you what we got. So now the marks on our bolts are horizontal. See, hopefully you can see that one there, one in the back, and then all 3 bottoms are all horizontal. So now we'll do a 45, so that'll be kind of like a slant in between horizontal and vertical. We just get that as close as we can. The most important is our final, so we end up back vertical. All right, so we are right here, top center. It's pretty close. Let me zoom you in and show you that. So now our bolts are roughly 45 degrees or in between horizontal and vertical. You can see all of them there. That one in the back. And the bottoms are the same. So that is good. We have one final step, and that's our 45 degrees. And they'll all be back to vertical. All right, now we want to be more precise on this and make sure it lands on our vertical. And we're just going 45 degrees more. So just keep checking it. Just a smidge. All right, let me go underneath. All right, last one in the back. There we go, let's double check. Yep, I like it. All right, let me zoom you in. You can see the final result. Okay, here we go. We are back to vertical, 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 and all the bottom three are the same. So that's it for putting our head bolts on. Now we can put our valve train on. All right, hopefully my hands don't get in your way too much. The valve train will be just like we did on the bench. I'm just gonna get a little bit of oil on these, just the best I can. All right, we do wanna make sure we put this in first if it's not in already. Just snug it down. All right, we will start with this one. Put that on the bottom. There we go. Put our bolts in. All right, we'll snug these up. All right, now we got our big one. Slide this under. Like that. There we go. So these bolts will have to go in first. And then we'll put it back with all the bolts in. There we go. Suck these down. There's a lot of it you have to do by hand. Not enough room. All right, our torque is 18.5 foot-pounds, and we start in the middle. Can't get that last one, so we just have to guess. Try one more time. Nope, just can't get anything on it. All right, now I'm gonna go underneath and get those four. All right, and those bottom four are easy to get to with my torque wrench. It's just this top corner one. I'm gonna wait to adjust the valves until after we get all our timing stuff on. So let's finish up this head. We have our VVT solenoid to put back on, oil pressure sensor, and then our EGR stuff in the back. All right, we have our oil pressure sensor we can put on. Just a little bit of RTV on the threads. Doesn't take a lot. This is a little sealant. We'll throw that in. Now there's two holes that it can fit in. Just take a flashlight, look underneath. You'll see which one is an oil port and which one is just a dead end. Put this on. This is a 22 millimeter. It's good and snug. So our head gasket kit gives us a new VVT solenoid gasket, or this is just the housing, the VVT housing. So it goes on one way. There we go. That can go on. I don't have a torque spec for these, just good and snug. They're just 10 millimeter bolts going into aluminum. So we don't want to over tighten them. Okay, the EGR in the back. Pull this out completely. We're gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on these threads. Just a little bit all around. Rub it, get it in all the threads. You don't have to goop it on, just a light coating. Now there's a longer top and a shorter bottom. So we'll put that on. Feel the hole there. There it is. We're just gonna get this threaded in. We won't tighten it till the intake manifold is on. All right, just like that. I think that pretty much buttons up this head. Before we forget, we have this heater core hose. I took the two bolts off the top, so we can go ahead and put those back on. Just a little 10 millimeter. And again, just good and snug. Let's hop over and put on the other head. All right, we got one head on, the driver's side. I'm gonna go ahead and take a break, actually a quick lunch. If you need a break, get something to drink, and when we come back, we'll do the passenger side. Now the passenger side should be a little easier than the driver, a little more room. But feeling good, we're getting there. All right, we're back. On this side, we already blew out our holes, cleaned off our surface. So we can put our head gasket on. Again, lettering facing towards you. Perfect. And then we'll get our head bolts in. So same thing as the other side. We're just gonna put a little bit of oil on here, coat the threads, and then our washer on both sides. Drop it in. Coat the threads, washer, washer, drop it in. So just do that to all of them just like the other side. All right, let's go to the car. I'm just trying to find a good angle for you, but hopefully this one is okay. So we want to make sure none of these wiring harnesses get in our way. We don't want anything pinched in between our head and the gasket. Okay, so I actually have the head bolts out at the moment just so I can get the head kind of close to where we need it to go. The power steering lines are kind of in the way a little. All right, perfect. So now that it's like that, let's see if I can set it down. I just want to tilt this enough. All right, all the head bolts are in. Now I just need to rest this real quick. The head gasket came off. Let's put that back on. There we go. Now I'll slide this over. All right, got that in. There we go. Okay, got those in. Perfect. Whew. My goodness. It just barely fits. All right, we'll get these fingers started. A few threads on it. I'll suck them down. All right, we'll just stuff this in real quick. Now let's go through our torque sequence. Now I'm gonna go through this quick because we already did it detailed on the other side. So 29 to start with. All right, now our 70. Now we'll back it off, 180 and then 180. Do the opposite way. All right, we're back to 0. Our initial 7.5, 22. Ah, my battery died. I don't know where it died, but we got our initial torque on all the head bolts. Now we're doing the degrees. And I'll just do all this off camera. We get our 90s, then we'll go back through 45 and back through 45. And I'll show you when everything is all finished where we are. Hopefully you can see that mark there, mark there, mark there, and all the bottom 3 are the same. So we're all vertical. So our head bolts are torqued. Let's go ahead and put our rocker assembly on. Okay, I already lubed everything up, so we're just gonna put these bottom one on first. Well, our back one isn't quite going in. There we go. Just had to wiggle it a little. Snug them down. All right, so on this side, I put the bolts through ahead of time. A few threads started. Suck it down. Just like the other side, you pretty much have to hand thread these all the way in. And we have 18.5 foot-pounds. And just no room back there, so we'll just have to guess. All right, do the same thing to the bottom. Nice, now we'll use our tool, get that spring actuated. Nothing to it. In the back, we got our oil pressure sensor. Snug that down. VVT solenoid housing has a new gasket. Put in a bolt first, tends to help. Goes in at a slant. Snug those down. Nice, I think we're ready to put our cam sprockets on. We're gonna start with the driver's side. We wanna get our dipstick tube bolted back in place, that one 10mm bolt. And then we got this cover to put on. There's a little spongy thing that came off. It's usually glued to the back of this cover. So we'll just set it on here first. Then we can get this over it, just like that. Kind of slides back in behind this little metal, behind the water pump, and then whatever this little bracket thing is. Thread our bolts in. Now these are just good and snug. I don't have a torque spec, but just little 10mm bolts. Now our sprocket can go on. It's keyed, so that little key goes in this slot, just like that. Put our bolt on. Now we have to get our timing mark back in the up position. We'll just turn this. There we go. Let's get a torque spec on this bolt. My information says 57.5 foot-pounds. So we'll have mine set to 58. Remember, we use this tool here with the 3 big ones in it. That's our crank tool. That will hold our cam sprocket for us. Okay, here we go. That's it. Now we're gonna take these bolts out, and we have different bolts to do this camshaft. Now we're gonna take this adapter from our crank tool and put our bolts all the way in. Just thread them all the way in until they bottom out. Do that to all 4 of them. All right, that's what it looks like. these all flush, and then these just stick out, just like that. Now, on the cam sprocket, we have this little hex key, and this tool will fit right in there and lock in place. Go ahead and put this on here. Again, it's keyed just like the other side. The bolt in. All right, the torque is the same as the other side. Now we'll take this part of it, we'll just slip these in just like that, and then this goes in where the cam is. Let's see, just like, there we go, like that, locks it in. Just had to reposition my tool. I have this side resting on the crank bolt. Hopefully you can see that. That'll just help hold it in place. There we go. Okay. All right, that's it. Let me check, but I think our AC compressor needs to get put on first as well. Not forget this little bad boy. Just snug on these. Yep, so this gets done next. Let's put this on. Make sure our wiring is out from under it. So there's one that's a different color. That goes right back here. So you got the one in the front. Directly behind it is that one. It had a little thread locker, so I'm gonna throw a little thread locker back on the new. There we go. These are torqued to 26.6, pretty much 27 foot-pounds. Double check, get this straight up and down. All right, I think from here, I'm gonna show the other video for routing the timing, torque specs, and all that. See you on the other side. So the sequence of tightening is you see this top one, and to the right or clockwise is this recessed one. That's number one. So the recessed one, and then go counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at 9 foot-pounds, and then do it one more time at 9 foot-pounds, just to confirm. All right, that takes care of our water pump. Just wipe off any coolant that may be on our pulley. And we'll go ahead and install this hose back. Anytime I'm reinstalling coolant hoses, I like using this silicone paste. It helps the hoses slide back on easier, and if needed, back off in the future. Won't forget our clamp. All right, thermostat housing. Now would be a good time to change the thermostat if you feel like it needs it. Either way, the kit comes with a new gasket, so we'll make sure we'll put a new gasket on if we're reusing our old thermostat. The little bubble bleeder to the top, pointing up. Good and snug, doesn't have to be crazy tight. All right, I'll reset you up and we'll put our tensioner pulley on and our upper idler. Oh man, again, I thought I was recording. All I did was put the tensioner pulley on and the idler pulley up top. Those are torqued to 29 foot-pounds. So you want the timing belt words so you can read them naturally as you're looking at the engine. And then it comes with marks to line up on your cam pulleys. All right, so once we have it kind of rough routed, you can see that timing mark lines up with our mark on the belt, and then it routes underneath and then over, and then you can see how that one is. And then we come underneath our tensioner and then over to this one. And now this one moved a little because of the tensioner, so it'll actually slide over one. And that's where it's supposed to be, slid over one. And then it'll go around up and over your water pump. And then now we can go ahead and put this one in. That's that geared idler. And when we put this one in, we'll just make sure that this actually slides over one like it's supposed to. And if for some reason you have to move the cams just a little, it's a 17mm socket. Use a breaker bar, not a ratchet. But you can use a breaker bar and just turn it one way or another. If you're like a tooth off or you need to line it up just a little, use a breaker bar to do that. It moves really easily. Same with on the other side. The reason why you don't use a ratchet is because you can turn it and then it'll kick and your ratchet won't stop it. But a breaker bar is just a solid piece. You can stop it yourself with your muscles. All right, so let me put that one on. And then once that geared one's on, then we can put this smooth bottom idler on and then just double check our marks, and then we'll pull the grenade on the tensioner. So I'm putting this bottom one on. Okay. So that one is really hard to get in. So let me show you the trick. Is when you route it around, have it here, have it there, come over the water pump, and then you yourself put tension down on it, and then with your breaker bar, put it on this cam and turn the cam counterclockwise to tighten up this top. And then come over to this cam and turn it clockwise to, again, tighten up this top. So you want this top as tight as it'll get while you're pushing down on the belt. Then you can get your pulley in there and there's enough slack to get that bolt threaded on. It's a very tight fit. Now we can put our last pulley on, this one down here. Let me move you around so I got more room. All right. And again, it's going to be hard to put on, but you just want to line it over the bolt hole and just pull up as much as you can to get that on. So let me show you the final look, and we'll make sure we torque those down. Again, these are 29 foot-pounds, that one and that one. So we are lined up here, lined up over here, and still lined up with our notch here. That's it. So what we're going to do is pull the grenade and turn the crank 2 revolutions. So 2 revolutions on the crank will be 1 revolution on the cam, and then we'll just double check our cam marks that they line up with the notch. Now that line on the timing belt will no longer line up. That's okay. We're just looking for the line on this cover. Same with this side. It's just that mark on the cover. And if everything's good to go, then we can start slapping everything back together. If while you're doing it, you notice any binding or anything funny, then stop, and you may have to redo the belt again. So this step is just for confirmation. I'm going to put the crank pulley back on. There we go, just for the rotation of the engine. Tighten this bad boy back up. So 2 revolutions. All right, let's look at the marks. So that one lines up with our mark. Come down, this one straight up and down. And then this one lines up with our mark. So we are good to go. Now let's start slapping everything back together. Before we put our covers on, let's fill it up with some coolant. And just make sure our water pump's not leaking. Having one of these funnels is pretty nice, especially for bleeding the cooling system. Make sure your radiator drain plug is put back in. You don't have to fill it all the way up. Just enough to know if our water pump's leaking. Imagine that would be enough. Almost half a gallon. Let's watch for any drips. All right, I say we're good. Nice, we got our timing belt all on. Now what we want to do on this left-hand side, hopefully you can see it. There is an arrow. You see that arrow? We want that pointing straight up. So this timing mark here, this timing mark on the side won't be straight up, but that arrow will be straight up. And then our center crank, that's our timing mark here. There's a triangle that will be pointing straight up. That puts our cylinder 1 at top dead center, so we can adjust the valve clearance, or at least check it and adjust it if needed. So this is the tool we'll be using to check valve clearance. The intakes are 0.2 millimeter or 0.008 inches. So 0.2 millimeters. And we just want to go in between the top of the valve and our rocker. So this slides in just barely. So it has pretty good drag on it, but it slides through. And then on this side, same thing. So perfect. And then we'll go underneath and do the exhaust just the exact same way. We're just sliding. The exhaust is right here, it's this gold one, 0.25 millimeters or 0.1 inches, or 0.01 I mean. 0.01 inches, 0.25 millimeter And these are plus or minus 0.04 millimeters. So on the intake, 0.2, it can be 0.24 or 0.16, and that's still within our spec. So cylinder number 1 is done. Let's turn the crank 180 degrees so that triangle is now pointing down and that arrow on the cam is also pointing down. Then we'll be able to do cylinder number 3. Sorry, I misspoke. So this triangle will be pointing down, but actually on the cam, that arrow will be pointing off to that side. So not straight down like I said, but off to the side. Now let's check cylinder number 3. Okay, check our intake. Okay, that's a little tight. Can't get the gauge in there. And this one, just a smidge tight. So let's adjust those. Let me show you a little closer. It'll be hard to give you a good angle. So on our rocker, there's a 10 millimeter nut and then a flathead screw. We want to crack that nut and then turn that screw either out or in, depending on if we have to tighten it up or loosen it. And then when we got it where we need it, we'll tighten that nut back up, and you can hold that flathead screw in place with your flathead while you tighten this up. I believe it's 7 or 8 foot-pounds, so it's not very tight, just good and snug, and then double check that gap. So I already know filming's not gonna be the best, so I'm just gonna whip through this real quick. You get the general idea. You need that tool, and you're just double checking gap, and every 180 degrees on the crank allows you to do another cylinder. So with that triangle pointing straight up, this arrow over here pointing straight up, that gets you started on cylinder number 1. This triangle pointing down and this arrow pointing off to the right, if you're looking at it, or 3 o'clock, that gets you cylinder number 3. Then this triangle back up, so 180, back up, and this arrow pointing down, or 6 o'clock, allows you to do cylinder number 2. That's this front one over on this side. And then one more 180, that triangle pointing down, and that arrow pointing at 9 o'clock allows you to do the last cylinder number 4. So 1, 3, 2, 4, and that's it. We'll be ready to put on our covers and our intake. We're getting close. All right, now let's prep our valve cover. Just put on a new gasket. This one's gonna be quite a pain. Somebody put RTV in the channel. You do not need RTV in the channel. That's a bad idea. So let's see if we can get it out, because this gasket is just glued and stuck in. So let's see about popping it off. Get a screwdriver in there. There we go. So yours should pop out a lot easier than this. And then your new one just pops right in. There. There we go. So far it's actually coming out pretty decent. Nice. We'll take some brake clean and we'll just brake clean out the channel and then blow it out so it's nice and clean. Just gonna get some of this RTV off. I think maybe the head gaskets were leaking and they thought the valve cover gasket was leaking. So that was their solution, but not the best idea. Then we wanna wipe this off too. That's where our spark plug tube boots go, or our seals for our spark plug tube. They go right there. All right, let me clean this out real quick. All right, now we take our new gasket, line it up, just like that. Now this gasket will hold itself in place. That's how it's designed. So it'll lock in, push it all the way down. There we go. There, perfect. Now it won't fall out. Okay, now let's go to the car and install our spark plug tube seals, and then we'll put in some new spark plugs as well. And our tube seals can go on dry, just like that. Push it down until it bottoms out. Okay, that's it. That was easy. The new spark plugs will just drop in here. Do that here too. We'll hand thread them in until they bottom out. For that back one, I'm going to use a little wobbly. So a wobbly and a 3-inch extension. I'll get that back one. We'll put the tight on. Now they have a crush washer, so you'll feel it crush and then bottom out. I believe the torque is about 13 foot-pounds. I'll put the torque on the screen just so you have it. There we go. And then we'll do this one too. All right, there we go. Now on our valve cover, right in these 2 spots where the seals are going, I'm gonna put a little bit of oil. Not a lot, just a little bit, so it lubricates the seal as well and slides around as we tighten it all up. So now we can just slide this in. There we go. Put in our top 3, get a few threads started, We'll go underneath and get our bottom 3. The torque on these are 4.7 foot-pounds, so not very tight. And the sequence is similar to our head bolts. So we'll start in the top center, then underneath, then this front corner. And then the 2 underneath ones, now that back bottom corner, I'll use a ratcheting wrench. And then last one is this one back here. I'll just use the ratcheting wrench for that too, since I have it in my hand. All right. Now the other side is done the same way, so I'll do that off camera and then we can throw on our timing cover. All right, the crank pulley bolt is 35 foot-pounds plus an additional 60 degrees. So let's start by getting our torque down. So on your socket, that corner to that corner is about 60 degrees when it's turned. So you can see where I marked it. And I just ran a line all the way down the side. Put that in. I'm gonna mark my tool. All right, now let me show you. So I have the 2 marks on my socket. Don't mind that little dash, that was an accident. And then I got a mark on my tool. So now, as I turn the bolt with my breaker bar, I want this line to line up with that mark on my tool. That'll be my extra 60 degrees. So now you can see this mark is now lined up with that. When it started off with this mark lined up, now this mark's lined up. We have our 60. All right, we are ready to install the intake manifold. Now with the head gasket kit, it comes with new injector O-rings. So let's get that all set up. We'll do that on the bench, a little more room, and then we'll set it in. All right, we'll start on this side because I already removed the injector rail. Now to get the injectors off, you just have to kind of twist. There's a little O-ring in there. There we go. So just this little O-ring we're gonna replace. So pinch, and then you can usually just get it off with your finger. There we go. So there's that one. Then we'll just do the same thing to this one. Just kind of pinch it together and then push off. There we go. Let me get the new ones from the kit. Now it looks like there are red ones and black ones. So this kit may be for a few different ones. We're gonna use the black ones for us. But just line it up with your old O-ring. There you go. Now we'll just slide it on like that. Nothing to it. Do that with the other one. Just slide it on just like that. Then we'll take a little silicone paste or dielectric grease and we'll just lube up our O-rings. All right. Do that to the other one. Doesn't take a lot, just a little lubricant so it slides back in the fuel rail. Next thing we have are these tips. They should also just kind of peel off. There goes my glove. Come on, buddy. There we go. And then we should have new ones. They'll slide on just like that. And peel the other one off. There we go. Slide on the new one. And we'll do the same thing. A little bit of silicone paste or dielectric grease. There we go. Put it into our fuel rail, just like that. Do the other one, just like that. We'll slide this whole thing on, just like that. We can also put a little bit of silicone paste on the end here so it slides in to the fuel line. There we go. There's something like that. Put that down. Okay. Put our bolts in. Now, I do not have a torque spec for these. All right. And we'll get our fuel line in until it clicks. There we go. And then snap our little blue tab to lock it. Nice. This side's done. Then we'll come over to this side. We'll undo these bolts. There, just like that. Oh, getting gas all over the place. Perfect. So, get this O-ring out, just like that. Pop on our new one, just like that. Little silicone paste, just like that. Pop this off, just like that. Put on our new one, just like that. And see if we can just snake it in. There. So last one, pretty easy. We got brand new O-rings. Feels good. Now underneath, we want to pull off our old gasket and clean off any old gasket material. Use a plastic scraper if you have to scrape anything. You just do that to both sides, and we are ready to put this back in. All right, on this side, we're just gonna take these out, wipe it off real good. Wipe it off, sweet. We do have new gaskets, so I'll just set those down like that. There's little dowels that hold it in place for us. There we go. Now we can set this down. Just make sure all our electrical connectors fall through like they're supposed to. All right, that goes out the back. This all goes out the front. Perfect. We can slide this more over. Okay, like that. Okay, like that. Perfect. Let's drop in our bolts. All right, these are 18.5 foot-pounds. Put on our oil fill. So this torque spec, just use your judgment. My microphone battery is gonna die really soon. So let me show you how to put the alternator back on. And then everything else is just connecting either a hose or an electrical connector, and we just get it all buttoned up. Then we can put our radiator fans back on. That should be it. And we'll top it off with coolant, do an oil change, and start it up. So on our alternator, right here is a little pinch dowel. So as you tighten this up, this little dowel here gets sucked in. So what we want to do is push that back out just a little. Doesn't have to be very much. And then we can slide this over right here. It'll just slide over easier if you have that pushed back. All right, then we'll put our through bolt through. There we go. Before we get too crazy, let's put this on real quick. Just tighten that down. You can plug that in. There should be a connector. There it is. Plug it in. All right, now we have this front bolt. Put that on. That'll just rest there for now. Put this back here. Get this on. That. Perfect. And then we should have a plug here. That'll go around and plug in. We still have to put our belt on, so we'll get a torque spec when that happens. We'll get this bolt here. I don't see a torque spec, so just snug. We don't want to strip this out. Okay, just like that. Cap on. And this one had a zip tie. We'll just put the zip tie back. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna start over here and then just work my way around and get this up. Now I do have new spark plug wires as well. Maybe we should just do that now. Let's go ahead and put this on first right here till it snaps. That's all you need to do there. And then this bottom hose can go on like that. Then we'll get our little hose clamp on. All right, my microphone died. I'm not sure where it died, but we rerouted this electrical connector to go in between the intake runner here and our AC compressor. So it comes around this way. We have it all plugged in. They can only plug in one spot. We're good there. Now in the back, we have our EGR pipe. Put that in. And we'll put a little bit of anti-seize on these threads. Most likely don't need them on the intake side of it. It's all good. Tighten this down. Now my camera battery died as well. I'm just plugging stuff in. Got this all plugged in. Our coolant hose is plugged into our throttle body. Brake booster hose. Just looking around. Everything is good on this side, I believe. So let's hop to the other side and do the same thing. We're just plugging our harness in. This harness goes around back. Plug one thing in at a time. There we go. And this also had a zip tie, so we'll make sure that gets zip tied. This one bolt here. That's for our oxygen sensor connectors. Got our ground straps up here. All right, let me look around. We have two 12mm bolts that we pulled off the back. That's holding the wiring harness bracket to the manifold. It's gonna be hard to show you, but hopefully you took yours off the way I did. Should be able to get them back on. So with a piece of towel, I'm gonna put it on the head and then the socket over the head, and that holds it from dropping. Then with a little flashlight, I can see where I'm going. Right, that one's in. All right, got that one in. I'll just suck them down. Suck this one down too. Got this PCV hose here. I'm gonna go ahead and put on new spark plug wires as well. Pop that off. The top one goes to the front, and the bottom one goes to the back. There we go. We're gonna want a little dielectric grease in this side, just coating the boot. Same here, just coating the boot. Pop that on. And this other one. There, perfect. And top one to the front. We'll also want a little dielectric grease in here, just in the boot. I'll go towards the front here. Same thing here, a little dielectric grease in the boot. So we'll go in the back. Now the same with this side. The top goes to the front, the bottom goes to the back. Pop those off. So I'm gonna get a screwdriver to help me pop them off. There we go. Pop this little retainer off. So exact same thing, a little dielectric grease. Put that on the bottom. There we go, a little more. Put that on top, like that. Run it through the channels. And over here, a little dielectric grease goes under our AC line. A little grease goes under our AC line again. All right, wires are done. I think we could put on our intake. All right, let me straighten you out a little. We have this little hose here that just pops on. There's no hose clamp. Now we can put on our intake. All right, this little gray connector here also goes to this thing. That. This can go on like that. Snug it down. And this goes on here. That. Tighten up this boot. Put in our PCV hoses. Hose on the other side. All right, now we can put in our ducting. Let me move you around. All right, this can go on in first. Make sure our mass airflow sensor connector is accessible. Snug this down. All right, now this can go on. And then the fat hose goes right there. Plug this in, put this on, tighten this clamp down. All right, everything else I'm gonna use the other footage for. That'll help speed me up, and I will see you at the startup. This is the last special tool you're gonna need for putting the AC belt on. So we'll put this on like that. And we'll put our tool on. It's angled, so this little piece goes in the bottom hole, and then it gets bolted into the top hole. I'll thread that in. Then we have this other plastic piece. It goes on the bottom. And let me zoom you in so you can see what it looks like. So you have this top piece. The belt goes behind it in that little angle, and then the bolt hole. And then for that plastic piece, it goes like that, and the belt goes in between the pulley and that metal U-shaped bracket. And then on the front of the bracket, it goes into that crank pulley hole, just like that. So now we're gonna hold this with our finger while turning the crank clockwise, and that'll force the belt up and over the crank pulley. All right, that's it. So we can undo this top thing. And it just fits right in its hole. You can turn it a few more times if you feel like you just want to double check things. Now that that's on, we can go ahead and put our alternator belt on. Now we cut ours off, so we're gonna have to loosen up the alternator now. 12 millimeter. Doesn't have to be all the way loose on this top one, just a little. Loosen this one. And then this one. There we go. That should slide down. We'll get our new belt over the crank first, then the power steering pump, and then the alternator. Make sure it's all in its grooves. I'll tighten this one down. I want about an 1/8 deflection. The thing with these is new belts are stiff. After you drive it for a while, it might loosen up. And you can always just come back and give it a little more tightening, especially if it starts to squeak. Then definitely come back, loosen these up, tighten this a little more, and then tighten these back down. All right, feels good. Tighten these down. Now let's go ahead and put our fans back in, upper radiator hose, and we are just about ready to button this thing up. Now remember, the one that had the clip for the coolant reservoir, that goes on the driver's side. Slide that in. Don't forget our transmission lines. I'm gonna fill it up with coolant. We could put that little plastic shield underneath back up with that 10mm bolt and that clip. Got this too. And this. I'm gonna throw the whole gallon in here. All right, let's see if we can get some of our exhaust on this back here. Just a little. All right, on the back of our exhaust, we're gonna put anti-seize on our bolt, just on the threads. Perfect. Well, let's see if we can get a thread started. Okay, that one is in, but it doesn't have the spring. So let's get the other one going. Just some stuff on the threads. I'm gonna put the spring on this one. See if I can't get it to clamp from the other side. Okay. Now let's back this one out. So that'll be good for now. I just have a few threads started. Let's go up front. Ground strap on. Now we have a new gasket. We can put our new gasket on. There we go. I'm gonna put some anti-seize on each of our bolts, or our studs here, I mean. Just a little. We'll do that to this other side as well, because both will go up at the same time. All right, we got our nuts ready. Just lift this whole assembly up. Okay, we're almost in. There we go. Just get one started here. Nice, that kind of locks this side in. Get a second one. Perfect, whew. So now on the other side, let me swing you around. We're just gonna come up with this side. There we go. There, got one started, whew. Nice, now we can get the rest started. All right, let me get a torque spec. All right, these are 22 foot-pounds, so I'll snug them up first, then we'll torque them down. All right, now let's come to the back. We got that center one. We'll put that on next. So we just lift the exhaust, just like that. Perfect. We get our bolt in. These are 25 foot-pounds here. Then I'll finish getting those back to our 13 foot-pounds, 13, 14 foot-pounds. And that's it, our exhaust is done. All right, we are ready to start it up. First thing I'm gonna do is just cycle the key on and off a couple of times. I wanna pump the fuel rail up and just check for leaks around our injectors and our fuel lines. After that, we'll start it up. All right, that was about 4 key cycles. Don't see anything leaking. Good. There we go. All right, why isn't it starting? All right, I forgot to plug our ignition coil in. That'll do it. So let me work that out real quick. All right, got that plugged in. Rookie mistake. Now let's see if it'll start. All right, nice, that's it. Sounds good. I'm gonna let it warm up. I'll finish bleeding the coolant and we are done. Nice job. This little smoking stuff, that's from a little oil getting on the exhaust and some anti-seize and stuff like that. So that is normal. It'll burn off just fine. Cool. All right, nice, that is it. So it took 2 long days, 1 day to pull it all apart and then take it off to the machine shop, let them do their magic, and then 1 full day to put it all back together. But this has been a long day. So if you need, take a couple of days, no rush, just do it right, step by step, and job complete. Thanks for watching. I'll have a link in the description for all the parts and tools used to do this repair. If you have any questions, comment, post down below. We'll see you on the next one.